Football is a game of 22 players, but by manipulating space, we can turn it into a series of one-on-ones.
Fires into the end zone. Touchdown Mustangs!
If you have great players, especially on the perimeter, they can dominate in isolation.
Throws to the wideout. Picked off, and the opening drive is stopped with an interception.
I'm splitting atoms, spitting flames, bringing change. Things will never be the same. I got the rap game, singing that last like Etta James. Lames get they plane shot down like John McCain. It's a dream, the flow's elegant.
What's good, y'all? Welcome to 7 Series Football, where we optimize for realism, efficacy, and immersion in college football 26. And in today's video, I want to continue to build on the Space Force theory that we introduced in the no-fly zone video. Being that we've already covered how to recruit and develop both wide receivers and corners, I want to go from the front office to the field, so to speak, and show you how to get the biggest impact out of these players. So we'll start with a quick review. Space Force theory suggests that modern football is no longer a game that is solely won in the trenches, but rather the game is really won in space. And thus, the positions that attack or restrict access to space are truly the most impactful. And likewise, the schemes that create or deny access to space tend to be the most efficient. That being said, there are 4 key Space Force positions. First off, we have our quarterback, and that is our general or our pilot of the entire offense. He's in control of everything, so that part should be pretty straightforward. Then we have our outside receiver, and think of him as like a long-range missile who can at one time eat up large chunks of space, if not directly attack the opponent's end zone. Then we have our edge rushers, and think of them as like spies who are trying to get behind enemy lines and disrupt any plans or any attacks coming from the opponent, which leaves our corners, which are naturally our anti-air or our missile defense system. But knowing these roles is not enough. So for the rest of this video, we're going to talk about how to create one-on-ones for your outside receiver and highlight the power of a cornerback who can survive and win in one-on-one situations. And I know y'all want to score the ball, so we'll start with the offense. All right, so first up, we've got 1st and goal as a result of a pick by our defense. And our alignment screams run as we have 10 players within the core of our formation. And unless the defense just wants to give us a running touchdown, they have to commit resources to the box, which then leaves our number 1 receiver outside on an island. And with this RPO, we don't have to run the ball. We can just let him win in his one-on-one. That's exactly what we do here, and we end up with a
Touchdown Mustangs!
But let's take another look at this. In the last clip, we manufactured space with a compressed formation, but now we're going to do the same thing with a wide spread out formation. We're in this trip set with 4 of our 5 eligible receivers lined up to the short side of the field, which leaves, once again, our number 1 receiver on an island, and this time with like 20 yards of space to operate within. And that makes our job really easy. All we have to do is let him go win.
They just keep firing. Touchdown Mustangs!
And this doesn't only work in the red zone. We can create space to attack vertically as well. Our dominant outside receivers are our long-range missiles after all. Once again, we have 4 of our receiving threats lined up into the boundary, and with their singular high safety on that side of the hashes, our receiver has all the space in the world to work with on the left side. So all we have to do is snap the ball and let him go do his thing.
To throw it on 3rd. He's got it inside the 30.
And we got a couple more angles here just to show you truly how much space these 2 are operating within. And remember, we created this space simply with our formation and alignment. Let's check out one more example. I had ran this formation a couple times in the game and noticed that my opponent kept bringing his corner really close to the line of scrimmage on the tight end side, which signaled to me two things. Firstly, there is a huge void of space on the right side of the field. And secondly, unless your cornerback is the Flash, he's probably not going to be able to effectively cover that space, especially if a receiver is attacking it with a head start. And as I'm sure you could see from the play art, that's exactly what we have drawn up here. So when we snap the ball, just as we expected, their DBs are chasing for the entirety of the play.
Lots of room to run. Touchdown Mustangs.
So at this point, it should be clear that creating space for our receivers gives us access to really easy completions and potentially huge chunks of yardage. But believe it or not, the impact actually doesn't stop there. We're in this really wide trips formation, which really forces the defense to tell you what coverage they're going to play with their alignment. And here, they've made no effort to disguise that they are playing man coverage. But at the same time, if you've been dominating in one-on-one situations, which clearly we have, your opponent or the defense is going to try to take that away. And here, at the snap of the ball, this linebacker bails from the box to help out in pass coverage, which gives us a numbers advantage in the run game. We have 5 offensive linemen plus our running back. That makes 6. To their 4 defensive linemen and 1 linebacker, which is 5. And so with just the threat of our receivers in space, we've created opportunities for us to run the ball.
New set of downs, nice execution on the option by this offense.
And we'll gladly take 11-yard runs each and every day of the week. All right, we got one more example to really drive the point home. And there's quite a bit to say here. Firstly, we're back in a compressed set instead of a super wide spread out formation, but we still get the same effects. The defense has to at least signal what type of coverage they're playing. And it initially looks like cover 3, but once I seen the safety start to backpedal, I knew it was going to be some form of too high defense. But on top of the coverage tail, the defense has come out in double mug, likely to try to give us some pressure. But as far as blocking goes, they're putting 2 off-ball linebackers up against a center and a guard, and we'll take that every day of the week too.
Ultimately, though, when we go ahead and snap this ball, we can see on the right that our receiver here takes 2 defenders out of the play. Then on the left side, that receiver also takes 2 out of the play, which once again gives us a strong numbers advantage with 7 blockers versus their 6 point of attack players and the free safety. And this time we get way more than 11 yards.
At the 35, he's loose. Into the secondary on the right. And he got away.
So in review, on offense, we can create and manufacture space to put our receivers in one-on-one matchups, which should give us access to easy completions or explosive plays. And once the defense adjusts to cover our receivers in space, likely breaking the integrity of their defense in order to do so, it should open up the rest of our offense, most obviously on the ground. But let's look at how this works on defense with regards to our corners. Now, right off the bat, this spacing should look very familiar. They have that same trips into the boundary with the X receiver split out wide, essentially isolated on the left side of the field. But because we have an elite corner out there on that island with him, this actually plays to our advantage.
Wants to throw on first down. Oh, he's going to try to get it all here. And it's incomplete.
Now, obviously, our guy won his matchup. We got the SWAT. That's awesome. But more importantly, we were able to commit resources to the rest of the formation, which made all of these throws really unattractive, especially under pressure. But let's go ahead and check out another example for good measure. And here we're going to get a similar look, although this time we've got the trips lined up to the wide side of the field. But the same concept is going to play out. Because we are able to effectively cancel out the X receiver, we can bring our safety to the other side of the play and help out on those routes. as if we needed to. See, my boy Tony was going to get the knockout with or without safety help. And while I'm making jokes about the result, I really want you guys to understand that the space that we were creating for our receivers on offense, we are now taking away with our corners on defense. And that's why these positions are so important when it comes to the space game. What they're able to do in isolation largely dictates the success of the other 20 players on the field. And I think we've made that pretty clear. But the last thing I want to highlight is what takes good corner play up into the elite tier. And that's ball skills. Incompletions and swats are awesome. They take downs away from the offense, which is obviously a win for us on defense. But wouldn't we rather take away entire possessions as opposed to just downs?
Picked off, and the opening drive is stopped with an interception.
And that's the key difference. Good corners have great coverage skill, and they can win you downs. But the elite of the elite not only have great coverage, they also have great ball skills. And that can win you entire drives. And on top of that, they just might go ahead and score for you themselves.
Inside the 10. Takes it all the way back for a pick six. Touchdown, Mustangs.
And that's all for this one. On offense, we want to create space for our wide receivers to go win in one-on-one matchups, and then bend the defense to our advantage to open up the rest of our attack. And then on defense, we want to recruit and develop elite corners so that we can deny access to that space from our opponent and hopefully steal back some possessions in the process. I've had a ton of success lately applying these principles to the way I play, and I want to share that with you guys because understanding and controlling space truly does a lot to simplify the rest of the game. If you haven't already, check out the wide receiver and the cornerback videos on the channel so you can see how to build elite players at these positions for yourself. Coming up next on the channel, we'll be finishing out the rest of the defensive positions. And then from there, we'll probably continue our discussion on our defensive fronts. Go ahead and turn on post notifications so you don't miss anything. And then also I'll make sure to be in the comments for the first 45 minutes after each post. So if you guys want to chat or have any questions, we can definitely do that. With that said, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.